Check one, check two. That's the first time I said that like that. Check your cheese.
Check your cheese.
Check your cheese.
Wow.
Stack your cheese and first you check it.
Oh, yeah, it's stacked and checked. We're ready.
Call me Ralph because I'm about to wreck it.
Wreck it, Ralph. Let's get it. Yeah.
Do I need to scoot in or do I look good?
No, we got you in frame.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so why don't you...
Are we recording?
Oh, we're ripping it.
I love it,
It's
dude.
time, folks. And why are we ripping it? Because in the world of real estate, it changes at the drop of a hat. And we're like a bunch of cats around here. Bunch of cats. Wow. So, yeah, why don't you give a little brief intro to those listening in today? What have you got to say about yourself?
I love that, dude. How does a cat relate to things always changing?
Oh, well, because when I think of a cat, man, they're so nimble.
Oh, they're so
right?
nimble.
And you got to be like that.
Land on your feet.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Yes. So for those listening, my name is Ben Harris, and my focus is fear coaching. So what that means is usually when people hear that, they're like, oh, like spiders or heights. I'm like, no, it's more of like the fear of rejection, the fear of failure, the fear of abandonment, those types of fears, the emotional fears that most people actually tend to think less of, but actually are doing more damage. For most people, of course, like serious phobias are very detrimental to people. But for the majority of human beings, it's the emotional fears that are doing the most damage to them.
The emotional fears. Whoa. Oh my gosh, man. Let's talk a little bit about that, and we'll get into the story here. So when it comes to emotional fears, what in the world is an example of an emotional fear? Dang.
Well, it's interesting, dude, right? Because most people would respond to fear. I imagine people like you and me, who would say like, oh, like they look successful, or they have this certain amount of money, or they've done this certain amount of accomplishments. They must not be afraid. It's like, no, every single person is afraid. Most people actually don't think that they're fearful, but if you've ever stopped yourself from doing something to avoid a negative consequence, a perceived negative consequence, then that's a fearful response, right? So say I want to go for a promotion at work, but I'm scared of not getting it. So therefore I don't apply for it. And what happens? I actually reject myself in the process instead of getting rejected by other people. I don't make the ask for the sale, right? Because I'm afraid of being told no. Same thing. I'm afraid of breaking up with someone because it's like, I'm afraid that I can't get anyone else. It's like, that's obviously like a fear. There's money fears. People are actually even afraid of success and they don't even realize it. Because success comes with responsibility. It comes with judgment. It comes with more eyes on you, more pressure.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, like if you feel nervous, if you feel chronically stressed, if you're overthinking, of course, fear of intimacy too, but usually like if you feel anxious, that is usually the clue that you are actually have a fear at the root of your subconscious.
That is very, very, that is defined and refined, right? It's so true, and no one can say no to that, which I really enjoy about that.
Yeah, right. It's because it's like, well, you just look at the what is a job's first, or what is a human's first primal job, right? Survive. And that's what fear is.
Yeah.
So if anything is threatening your quote unquote safety, then therefore there's a, fight or flight. Your nervous system kicks in to therefore protect you from a potential danger. But our systems don't know whether it's like, oh, this girl's about to dump me or tell me no versus I'm going to die. Right? Only we can give it that context, but in our subconscious mind, it doesn't know that. All it knows is pain. And so fear is the avoidance of pain and suffering.
That's that old amygdala.
That's right, baby. I'll let you know that.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I've got obsessive compulsive disorder. And to my understanding, it's because it's due to a hyperactive amygdala.
There you go.
And so I learned a little bit about that. Yeah, very interesting. Wow. Now, could you say that there's a defined number of fears out there? Like, is there a list, and is it stopping there, or are more coming up as time goes on? And people learn? What do you think?
So in my work, I've distilled. Of course, there's probably like numerous things that you could say
Like the spiders,
just
like the couch cushion or whatever.
Yeah, like literally just as many as someone wants to figure it out. Like you could call it something different. But in my world, I've identified 10 foundational fears. So there's typically 10. And even with that 10 though, they're all like interconnected.
Yeah.
Meaning is like they're like someone might have a fear of money, right? Like losing money. But it's usually not like if all of your means are met, like for people like me and you, they are. And a lot of people listening, I assume you're listening on a podcast, you have a cell phone, right? Is like you're not on the street, like you're not in poverty, most likely. So like even if you're in debt, right, your needs are still being met. So it's like it's not about the money anymore. It's about what the money means to you. And a lot of people, it actually is a sense of control. Like same thing, even if you look at
Control.
like for you, like we don't have to go so deep into it, right? But like OCD or eating disorders or stuff like that is actually why we do those things, is because we like having a sense of control, because at some point in our life we felt out of control. And so these things are just coping mechanisms to make us feel safe.
Wow. Coping mechanisms. Dude. God, that's very, yeah. It's all making sense. I'm reflecting upon all the A&E documentaries I've watched around some things. And
I love it.
Yeah. Now, gosh, this is a specified field, or a very hyper-specific field, rather. And you're the first person in my life that I've met that's doing something like this. There might be some people, other people out there.
I mean, there's probably a few, but I've never really, like, my name on Instagram is the fear guy, and so it's very like it's like
you the fear guy, dude.
I'm the bro. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it's like that's just like it. If you look at the history of my life, it's for some reason I've always been drawn to doing things I'm afraid of. So I know, this literally is my God-given purpose, is to do this. And it's been proven time and time again, is similar to you before we started recording, right? It's like you just want to give back. And I know this is literally my, trifecta of doing what I love to do, making money while doing it, and making an impact. And that's why it feels so aligned and feels so good.
Yes. And that's a gift to be able to have found that.
Yeah, I'm very, very appreciative, because I know not a lot of people have.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about money and the fear of not having money and it's really not that. Mm-hmm. It's something else.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we know what you do, and I'm curious, has something happened in your life that has provoked you to go down this road? Were you ever once an afraid person?
Absolutely, bro. I'm still afraid. Like I put a video on Instagram today because this morning I was actually about money, right? And this morning I was resisting my fear, telling myself, dude, you shouldn't be afraid. Like this is so small. Just don't be afraid.
Yeah.
And when I tell myself that, though, what happens?
You get afraid.
I get more afraid because whenever you tell yourself to not do something, you actually do it, right? It's like when you tell a kid, hey, don't hit the trash can on your bike. They actually hit the trash can. When like NASCAR drivers are going around on the track, they have to focus on right ahead. If they literally just turn and look at the wall, they actually hit the wall. So the same, right? So it's the same thing. Like when you focus on what you don't want to avoid, or when you want to avoid, you actually will make it happen. So for me, the video I released today was like just me speaking out loud to myself, like I'm afraid, and that's okay. And then as soon as I said that, like the weight lifted off my shoulders.
Whoa! Because
I'm accepting that part of myself. Right? Is like it's the same thing of any other emotion, like accepting the anger, accepting the sadness, accepting the disappointment. Like, because if we deny any part of ourselves, it doesn't mean it's helpful or ideal to feel that thing forever. And of course, no one wants to be sad and depressed forever. But there's a reason that you are, and you have to accept why you're hurting for you to start to heal. So just that simple like act of me saying like, oh, I'm afraid, like it allowed me to actually not feel afraid anymore, which is so funny and ironic.
They don't teach you that in elementary school.
No, they don't.
Sounds so
People
important.
tell you don't be scared.
They tell you that.
And they say, there's not like, dude, don't be scared because everyone's afraid, right? And so they are literally afraid of feeling fear.
Sounds like a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And like you said, once you said it, there went the weight.
Yeah. And then I can say, okay, cool. And like, but with my story specifically is like, yes, of course, there's been like bigger moments of fear and different things. And I think one of my superpowers is the ability to reframe situations. So one of those stories is it was in 2000. So in the beginning of 2019, so for over 4 years ago, I left home. I got recruited for a job. I left this company that I helped build. And I left I was like, okay. I was terrified of leaving the state, going across the country.
Which state was that?
Was born and raised in Salt Lake City.
Oh,
and then
nice,
I went to South Carolina.
Ripping slopes?
I did, yes.
Nice, dude.
A little skiing.
Yeah.
And then that was like when things just started to change. I know I was divinely pulled out of my comfort zone. So, because I knew I wasn't supposed to be there in the same environment, doing the same job or with the same people. I knew I was supposed to be doing something different. And that was the universe's way of literally stripping everything that wasn't meant for me.
Yeah.
And so, like, all in the same year, it's pretty crazy. I moved away from home. I accepted a new job. And then what happened from there, I also invested 40 grand of debt. So I leveraged my debt to invest into a crypto fund. And what happened is, so at this point, right, I was like 27, 28. And I decided, I was like, okay, I have a 401k. I got a 6-figure job. I've got stock options. I'm single, no kids. Like, it's time to like, take a little risk. Like, let's start accumulating some wealth.
Hey, what age did you say?
28.
28. Okay. Yeah.
And so I invested, I leveraged 40 grand of debt, the bank's money, to go into this crypto fund. And I started making about 1 Bitcoin a month, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Right?
I think.
Yeah. I mean, it depends what the price is at a certain point. Like right now it's like 20 grand.
Oh.
So that's obviously a fantastic investment. If I invested 40 grand and I would be making 20 grand a month, that's pretty absurd.
Yeah. That's lovely.
So what happened with that, right, is as soon as I accepted my new job, it was crazy, dude. Like, I thought it was the answer because I was like, sweet, like I'm basically a junior executive. I'm making like almost twice the amount of money. And like very shortly after, I realized, oh, this isn't for me. Like, have you ever tried to put 2 magnets together of the same charge?
Yeah, no.
And they literally, you can't put them together. That's how it felt like for me trying to go into the office.
Poor guy.
And it's like, and I was usually like the overachiever, like instead of coming in late and working late, I would or coming in early and leaving late, I would come in late, take long lunches, and then like leave at 4:59. It was
nice cup of tea.
It was just it was difficult. I was like, literally like, this isn't for you. So again, right, I was stripped away from everything that was familiar. And that was part of it of like, okay, like I know no matter what the job is or who my boss is or how much money it is, like this isn't for me. So fortunately I was making that money. And then, so it gave me the courage to quit my job, but it was still scary as hell. And I asked somebody because I had a side business, but it wasn't making any revenue yet. It was basically like a podcast, and I was trying to do influencer marketing through the podcast. And it was like a cool idea and a fun idea, but it wasn't making any money. But I was like, I'm going to go all into this thing. Like, someone asked me the question, what would you do if it was impossible to fail? And as soon as they asked me that question, I just knew. I was like, oh, I'd quit. And it was just like in my heart and soul. Like I couldn't deny it. And so I did. And so I quit and I started pursuing, like I just started, traveling and interviewing people on the podcast and trying to build this business. And then about a month or 2 after I quit, I found out that I lost that 40 grand. So that investment was actually a scam.
No.
Yeah.
You got ripped off.
Yeah.
Dude.
So fortunately I still had, some Bitcoin.
Was it Logan Paul's thing?
I don't know. Not that one.
Okay.
That was years ago.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
So yeah, not like Logan Paul and who else, like all those popular people,
Yeah, You're popular.
Nah.
Oh.
Not that level.
That level. Okay, got it. Yeah.
But so of course, whenever you lose 40 grand and then you just quit your job and you don't have any revenue coming in, you're kind of like, that's an oh crap moment.
That's a bad day.
But fortunately,
fear,
very rightfully so. And it's like fear is not a bad thing, right? Like fear is very useful. Like I mentioned before, it's there to keep us safe and to say like, yo, dude, there's something happening here and maybe you shouldn't do this thing. Like, and obviously, so my brain is doing all sorts of things to make sure that it's like, hey, like return to safety, ASAP, like, come on. But circling back to my superpower of reframing, what I chose to believe, and this is also the superpower of like just choosing what you want to believe too, is part of my work of just choosing your beliefs. But like I just chose in this moment, I remember telling a friend who was also in the investment, who was freaking out more than me. And I told him, I was like, dude, I lost 40 grand so I could learn how to make 40 grand back, but in my own business. And so just that little mindset shift, like completely changed everything. And I mean, it didn't happen right away.
It's a process.
It's a process, right? But at the same time, like just that little belief, instead of going into panic mode and like, let me hurry and go get another 9-to-5 job. Like, dude, I remember, and it's funny because we're in Austin and I live in Austin now, but there was a moment 4 years ago, or no, it was 3 years ago. I think it was 2020, right before the pandemic, in February 2020. And I remember I recorded a video because I wanted to have evidence of this thing that was about to happen to me. So I had, all this debt now, no money coming in, like a failed business. And by the way, right, like this idea that I quit my job for wasn't working out. So essentially I have a failed business now. And side note, I forgot to mention that when I moved, I thought I met the girl of my dreams very quickly, got my heart broken. And I was also depressed for the first time and lonely because it's like, I left my family and community. It's like, I'm in this new place. I thought I'd meet the girl of my dreams and just like heart and dreams shattered. And then fast forward, right? Failed business, lost 40 grand. And somehow I'm still like, this is happening for me, which sounds ridiculous. Part of that is honestly just like a trauma response too, because it's like in survival, like what's more helpful for me to believe that this is just destroying me or this is going to work out for my benefit?
Yes.
And so I recorded a video. I remember I was in my friend's apartment in Austin, downtown Austin, and I gave the same, rundown of what I just gave of all the things that have happened to me. I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I just have a feeling that something's going to work out. And then a month later, shortly after the pandemic happened, I got this download and meditation to rebrand everything into the Fear Guy. And as soon as I rebranded into the Fear Guy, and I had started toying with fear, I really liked the topic because there was just some things I really connected with it. But as soon as I claimed that and really started niching down and focusing on that, I signed 4 clients in a week and then 4 in 1 week.
Wow.
And then from that point, of course, there's been like ups and downs from that point, but it's really like that critical point of like listening and just trusting completely changed my life.
Holy smokes. Well, I think there's a little bit of we got to sprinkle a little mustard on there.
A little sprinkle mustard.
And what I mean by that is that X factor. Okay. Cause you shoot, man, you hit this low. You hit
very
the low.
low.
And you started thinking about ideas, but there was something that actually had you take action. Because some people could hit the low and then they could have the idea and not take the action and just accept it. You had that perspective shift and then you applied something behind it. What was the driving force behind the application? Where'd that come from?
That's a good question, dude. Honestly, it's like, I think I've practiced it enough. And I think, so in my work, I've discovered there's always, so humans have 2 forces inside of us. We've already talked about one, which is fear, right? Like our first primal instinct is literally to survive. We are a living organism that doesn't want to die. And then our other force is to push the limit It's to adventure. It's to live freely, right? It's to follow our dreams. And so you always have two conflicting desires, right? For me, I would say fear and love, very simply.
Okay.
You could say fear and truth. You could say fear and freedom. You could say fear and whatever resonates with you. But to me, there's two major forces, and it's fear and love. Like a lot of people think it's like, oh, hate or evil is the opposite of love. I'm like, no, it's actually fear. And so, because it's like one is propelling me to live and one is like sucking me down into destruction and to depression. So you will either, your desire, your dream must be stronger than your fear. And it's like, I still very much had and have fear, but my dream and my desire and my purpose is stronger than that.
Okay.
So that's what propelled me, is like knowing that it's like, and it's for me is, and like, this is what I help people work through, right? Is because it's, people definitely get paralyzed and frozen in inaction. Like if you're not taking the action that you think you should be or that you want to be, it's because you're afraid, right? It's like, well, what if I make the wrong decision? What if I make a mistake? It's like, bro, like we're all going to make wrong decisions and mistakes. There's no such thing as failure because you can always pivot and make a new one. Like that one choice isn't the final one. And so for some reason, like it's just my connection to the divine of like, I know that I'm meant to do this. And if I don't do this, that's going to be much worse. Like I can't live with myself if I don't do the thing.
That's the power of negative thinking.
It is.
What happens if you don't?
Yes.
And that's scary.
Mind blown.
Oh,
exactly.
That came full circle.
Yeah, right. And it's like, again, back to the fear isn't bad. It's actually like very motivating.
Yes.
Like to me, it's more scary to die. Not
healthy fear.
Yeah, like there is such thing as like a healthy fear, right? Is like, and that's nuanced too. But to me, I'd rather much live my life saying that I gave everything I had, said everything I had to say, lived every dream, lived every, like just sucked all the juices out of life instead of like being afraid of what the worst case scenario.
So you grew up in the great mountains of Colorado.
Utah. But yes, awesome. The Rockies.
Yeah. That's really cool. And then, so as you're going along life, right, I'm sure there's something, a time or two where you learned an extremely valuable lesson. Somebody might have shown grace upon you, or it was all on you, and you managed to escape and come out on top. All right, let's bring it back.
Let's bring it back.
Yeah, you're out there. You're in Utah. You're going through your adolescence, your teenage years. What comes to mind when we talk about something that might have really, really changed the path of your direction completely?
Yeah, it's like, so my mom loves to tell this story. So I was in 7th grade, and it was 7th grade is like when we first get like report cards. When you're in elementary school, isn't it just like G, like it's not actually A, B, C, D. It's like
G minus, G plus or something like that.
Yeah, it's like acceptable or not. Very simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then once you get into middle school, junior high, all that stuff, they start, honor roll, high honor roll, all that stuff. And I remember I came home from school with my first report card feeling down because all of my friends were on the honor roll or higher honor roll. And I think I had like a 3.2 GPA. Like it wasn't bad by any means.
Yeah.
But it was like, I'm not that, right? It's like, jeez. I want to be the best. And so she actually incentivized me to like, hey, Ben, your birthday's coming up. Like, if you're able to get on the honor roll, I will give you a cell phone for your birthday.
Are you kidding me?
And so literally that just switched. Something clicked in my brain. I'm not sure what it was.
Yeah.
But I just did it. So from that moment of like my second semester or trimester or whatever in 7th grade, I think I got a 3.7 the next time. And then I got nothing less than a 3.8. So I graduated high school with like a 3.95, which, I mean, it's much easier in high school because you just do the work and, do the homework. That's most of it.
Yeah.
But still, right, it was that something just clicked of like, oh, I do this and I get this. There's obviously some negative stuff to that, like of meaning like what I needed in that moment was just to be like, to be listened to and to be loved. Instead, it was just like, like, here and go achieve this now. Like, here's what to do with it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's wrong, right? Like, I think that's a very natural and actually like healthy and helpful response to be like, oh, you don't like that? Well, then here's what to do. Go change it. And I did. And that was definitely like a pivotal moment.
Yes.
Wah, 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 wah.
Oh my god.
We said the name. I was naturally saying it.
Wow. That was really good.
The pivotal moment, dude.
Thank you. Nice of you.
And that was a pivotal moment, like legit. As far as me being able to like set and achieve a goal.
Did you say you were derailed at any point in that year?
In when 7th grade?
Yeah. Did you hit an all-time low in 7th grade?
I don't know about an all-time low.
Let's go along the timeline here.
Uh-huh.
You're cruising, you got your nice grades, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, something comes up. Who knows what that is? You were probably like wondering, what am I doing here? What comes to mind?
It was when my parents, they divorced when I was like 5. So my mom at some point was a single mom of 5 kids.
Dude.
Which is a lot. And she had dreams, right? She followed her entrepreneur dreams. And my dad wasn't around a lot. Like I saw him every other weekend. And so my mom did most of like the raising and also had to provide too.
Wow.
And so because of that, right, there was a lot of stress on her. And now I've come to understand as an adult, I'm like, oh, that's where a lot of even my trauma and coping mechanisms come from, right?
Really?
Yeah, like I was unconsciously soaking up her stress and her fear and her anxiety.
Oh.
Like, even though like we were taken care of, like we never ended up on the streets, but she, like rightfully so, like we were in survival mode, just getting by. And so one of those moments I remember, she had a nervous breakdown and we had to move in with my aunt. And that was one of those moments where I was just like I knew something, like I'm still a kid. I think I was like 16. And so I knew something was happening. I didn't know the dirty details of what was happening, but obviously I know something bad happened to my mom and now we have to move in.
Something bad happened.
And we have to move into my aunt's house, and like she's going to take care of us.
Oh, the bad thing is she kind of just like lost because the stress and pressure.
Yeah. She had a panic attack and,
yeah.
Or I forgot what I said before, like a breakdown, right? Of like unable to function from that point and like needed a reset.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely a moment where I remember, definitely starting to feel like being more conscious of like being displaced and like having a lack of safety.
And what did that do for you long term?
It was a mix. Like I definitely felt safe and loved with my aunt. Like she definitely took care of us and like.
What's her aunt's name?
Paula.
Aunt Paula?
Shout out Paula, dude.
In Utah?
In Utah.
Nice. Yeah.
And she took us in, took care of us, like gave us a good Christmas and all the things.
That's cool. Is she around?
She's still around.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so that was like, even stuff like that, like I'll always want to like give back for that way.
Yeah.
So like there's some positive stuff in that aspect. And then, honestly, dude, I'm not sure like the negative. I mean, I could pontificate
probably,
on it.
Well, in the immediate, it was probably pretty negative.
For sure.
Yeah, but then and there, you're probably like, oh my God, this sucks or something, or
and it's
confused or whatever. Okay.
And confusing, yeah.
Now, oh shoot. So, yeah, man, that's no joke. What was I going to ask you? I was going to ask you, is that what started your drive to pursue fear, so to speak?
Around that same time, it's crazy that you're catching on, dude. You're following the breadcrumbs.
Well, that's amazing. That's great.
So around that same time, I actually got into music for the first time. And so before my corporate career, I was actually a hip hop artist. And so when I was 16, I made my first CD and I sold it in the high school halls. I went, I sold it in lunch, basketball games, in the hallways, and I made a few $100.
Yeah.
That
Respect.
That was my first entrepreneurial hustle.
Yeah. It's no joke.
And so after I did that, I got invited to perform at a school assembly. And this was like honestly probably my first visceral memory was feeling fear and doing it anyway. And I remember when she asked me to perform, I was so terrified, like, oh my God, but also so like excited. Oh my God. Like, and that's how you know it's usually something meant for you. Like it's your higher calling. If you are terrified and simultaneously excited, and that's usually for you. And so I said yes and performed. And then a few years later, I read a book that talked about like doing what you're afraid of is the key to success. And then from that point, I started doing everything I was afraid of from 19 on.
What questions does one need to ask themselves to get that, to turn water into wine, so to speak?
Oh, that's
Lemons
right,
into
baby.
lemonades.
I love it. Water to wine and to the alchemy, bro.
Yeah.
The transformation.
What kind of questions did you ask yourself? Because you were in this spot where the family unit kind of got a little disbanded and lots of things were changing and stuff. And you had a choice, right? Because remember, we talked a little bit about this before. Some people kind of just let it affect them and don't really do much with it. It sounds like you, again, perspective shift, turn it into something great. What kind of questions, if you can remember them, did you ask yourself at that point?
I mean, at that point, I don't think I asked myself any questions. I think it was just like a survival response to make sure, like, for me, it was a mix, right? Like, obviously, that's somewhat helpful, but also for me, it was like, I don't want my mom to feel like in pain, you know? So it was some like unhealthy sides of like, I am the man in the house now, you know? And like, even though I'm just a kid, it's like I'm responsible for these things.
Gee.
And even as a little kid, I took that upon me too, right? Of always being the positive one, being the one who didn't have any problems, you know? So it's like I had to maintain this perfect illusion and like this persona. So that was just part of that. And it was like I wanted to be great. It was like I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be the special one. Like I was always, as a kid, that people always called me special. Just because like my soul and spirit felt different, I guess.
That's funny.
Yeah, and so like that, you know, expectation.
Dude.
Is that you too?
No. You asked me like kind of why I asked you to be on this podcast. And what I said was, you're special. That's crazy. Of course, I said more after that. I didn't just say you're special, but yeah, that's pretty interesting.
You stared me in the eyes and said, "You're special."
No, well, dude, I don't say that. I haven't said that to anybody in the past. I mean, all of them are. Everybody is, but I've never said that out loud.
Interesting. What do you think that is?
Something's going on over here.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate it.
That's pretty cool. Keep going.
Yeah,
this is great.
So that's what that is, right? Is like there is just a feeling that people don't know how to describe, and that's how they describe it. And so that was like an expectation that I set for myself, is to be special. And so that showed up, obviously, like I've said it's a lot of helpful ways, but it's also a lot of pressure for a kid to maintain, like to be the special, perfect one all the time.
And did you ever crack under the pressure?
I think I definitely I talked to my mom recently about this. I won't go into like nitty gritty details, but we actually did a therapy session together recently, about a month ago.
You were the therapist?
No. We went into a session together. I'm not going to give my mom therapy.
I don't know.
For everyone listening, that's not your role.
No, okay. Yeah.
And but it was really helpful.
Yeah.
Because I expressed that I was actually really afraid as a kid. But I didn't let myself look as afraid, because that was, again, right, a protection to make sure that I'm the one who's supposed to be the one caretaking for my family and for my mom, which isn't the role of a kid, right? But that's what kids will subconsciously do to make sure their parents don't feel certain things or try to protect them. So that was, like, I definitely had moments of being afraid and crying in my bedroom and all that stuff.
Whoa, man. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you had the chat with the
Mhm.
doc.
Yeah.
Any pivotal moments in that one conversation?
Oh, dude, it was completely transformational. I mean, not
Wow.
a lot of people get to have that honest conversation with their parents because honestly, the parents could be defensive, right? The parents be like, I
Yep.
did my best. I didn't do anything wrong. What are you talking about? And it's like the whole point of it is like, we know that you did your best, right? And at the same time, it doesn't mean that I can't feel um, like upset with how some things happened.
Yeah.
Like it's nuance. It's not black or white. People think it's like, but again, right?
I do my best, and that's it.
Yeah, it's like, well,
It's like,
that's a defense
it's one side of the
mechanism,
story, too.
right?
Yeah,
It's their ego trying to protect them from like feeling disappointed and feeling hurt. So whenever someone gets defensive, that's a clue, right? Of they're really afraid of being wrong or feeling hurt.
Why
Same with
would they
anger.
be afraid of being wrong and being hurt?
Well, who wants to
Be
feel
wrong and
wrong?
be hurt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
Simple enough.
Right, because like I don't want to be wrong, right? And
Yeah.
like on it, like you'd have to go into someone else's, history of like, are they have a history of rejection, of abandonment, of all these things that could lead to like why they don't want to be wrong and why they're defending themselves. But yeah, dude, it's honestly completely transformational to have. I've never been so honest with my mom, just because I've always kept a strong, like everything's okay for the most part. Of course, I've had frustration and stuff, but to truly like reveal how it really felt as a kid was extremely therapeutic, extremely freeing, liberating, and healing for me and my mom.
Man, that's really good.
Hmm.
That was recent,
Yeah, about a month ago.
months ago. Where's your mom?
Where is she in the world? She's
Yeah.
in Utah.
In Utah?
Hmm.
In the mountains?
Not on the mountains, right below the mountains.
That's the place to be. That's really awesome.
It is
man.
nice.
Wow. Jeez, what an adventure so far. And have you always lived in Utah and then here?
And then, so South Carolina for a year for that job.
Yeah.
So that was when, broken heart, lost the money, quit the job, got the job, quit the job, all the things.
Yeah.
And then from there, I was nomadic for a year. And so
Tell us about the nomadic experience.
That was in 2020.
Yeah.
And, before the pandemic, I was just like, okay, I'm moving away from South Carolina. I'm just going to start heading west. I stopped here and then I came back here in Austin and I really, really liked it.
Mm.
And so I actually, at the end of the journey, it was November of 2020, I went to Hawaii and I was like, I've always wanted to live in Hawaii. Like, let's just go spend the winter there.
Yeah.
Which sounds amazing. And so I bought a one-way ticket, went to Hawaii on the island of Oahu on the North Shore. And then I quickly found out that that's not where I was meant to be. I just felt it in my soul that like, oh, like this is cool as a vacation, but this isn't like for me forever, long term in this moment.
Mm.
And so it was like an immediate no from my intuition. And so like literally 5 days later, I booked a ticket and came home. And because my car was at my mom's, all my belongings, my car was still packed up because like all my stuff was just in my car from driving around. And so I flew back, got my car, and then drove. And I just knew that I was supposed to be in Austin. And so I came down. I landed on a Saturday morning, and then I started driving down here on the next day on Sunday.
Bold.
That's how I do, baby.
Yeah.
Once I know, I can't unknow. It's like I gotta do it.
This was kind of like a week in the life of Mr. Ben Harris. I can only imagine.
So it's very,
yeah.
It's different. Right now I'm definitely more full than I ever have because I've started to accept the responsibility. The full responsibility of what my, leadership role is. For a long time, I wanted to, and it's okay. Like I definitely took like a break from, I don't think I hustle anymore, but working long hours in the corporate world. It was a bit of just like, man, I don't want to do that anymore.
Well,
and so I was resisting more responsibility. But now, and that was my version of fear of success, by the way. And so that was for me now, like accepting like, okay, like my calendar is going to be more full. Like it's not going to just be a few sessions here and there. And then, like when I was nomadic, dude, I freaking like laid on the beach most of the day, worked out, and then maybe had 1 or 2 things a day,
Yeah.
which is fantastic. I mean, that's amazing. And I'm super grateful for it.
Mm.
And there's going to be still moments of life. Like I don't want to be, overly stressed with work, but now it's definitely more, this week has been different. Just it's been more spacious. Some things have been moved around, but yeah, it's usually like last Thursday, I think I had like 3 podcast interviews, and that was a busy day. So
In
yeah,
one day.
in one day. So that's a lot of talking for me.
Gee.
So that definitely wore me out.
Sheesh.
Sheesh. And sheesh. If you guys know who that is, I'll be impressed of that rapper ad lib. But yeah, it's pretty, just like simple, dude. Of like, I mean, I have beautiful family,
You got family?
I do.
I
got a little baby,
you Scott's kids.
got a lady. Peter Pan's got kids. You know that line?
Yeah, dude.
There you go.
Yeah, Gus. Who's the guy that said that? The guy you got the sword from? No.
In Hook?
The other kid from Hook. Yeah,
Yeah, it's the little one.
that's right.
Peter Pan's got kids.
Kids.
That's a deep cut if everyone knows the movie Hook.
It's one of my favorite movies.
It's top 5 for me, dude.
Dude, you know what? There's a valuable lesson in that movie.
Dude, a lot of valuable lessons.
What made Peter Pan fly? Let's
His
do a little
belief.
trivia. Snap. Got it. Yes.
Dude, and that's my, literally the last thing that I help people walk through is asking them what do you want to believe? So back to the question, right? Like I didn't know what I was asking myself as a kid, but now I've figured out a series of prompts and questions that people can ask themselves to literally, completely transform their fear and limiting beliefs and subconscious mind. So like, what do you want to believe is powerful? A lot of people might not know, and you don't have to know right away, but just stew on that question of like, because when I lost $40,000, it's like, what do I want to believe, that this is the worst choice of my life and my life is over? No, that sucks. It's like, what do I want to believe is, oh, I lost $40,000 so I could learn how to make it. That's a much more helpful belief, right? So the same thing with our friend Peter, Robin Williams, right? Is same thing. It's like, what do you want to believe?
Change the way you look at things. The things you look at change.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, you're full. You got the family.
Yeah.
Things are cooking.
They're cooking.
That's really good, man. What part of town you at?
You're in South Austin.
South Austin?
Mhm.
Nice. Well, I got a couple fun questions for you.
Hit me.
Yeah. Because this has been fun in one way. We're going to do a little bit different now.
Dude, let's mix it up.
So, what's the one hidden talent no one knows about? Except for maybe a select few.
So I mentioned it earlier, but yeah, rapping. So not as strong as I used to be, but since I became a dad, I've been definitely more doing like fun, silly dancing and singing and like rhyming for him.
Yeah.
So that's starting to come back a bit more too. It's been fun.
Well, have you used ChatGPT to make a rap and a song?
I haven't. I've used it to write me a lot of other amazing things.
Yeah.
But you can ask it to write a rap.
Of course.
Have you done it?
Yes. And I recorded it. It was like 4 days ago.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Play it at the end of this episode.
Dude, that's embarrassing. It's hilarious.
Or a bonus episode.
It's about being a good realtor or something like that.
Is that what it is?
It's funny. I sent it to my referral network. Yeah. They're cracking up.
That's funny.
Yeah. Okay. And where can people find you relaxing on the weekends here in the greater city of Austin?
Mm-hmm. We love Barton Springs. I'd love to ask you, where's a new place? Because we're still, new. I mean, it's been just over 2 years. So we are still trying to like mix it up, not just frequent the same things. Barton Springs, I like to check out a few hikes. To me, they're not really hikes. They're more like nature walks.
Compared to those Utah mountains. They're nature walks.
Yeah, nature walks.
Yeah.
A stroll, but it's still beautiful.
Check out Pace Bend Park.
Pace Bend.
in Spicewood.
That sounds familiar.
It's bomb. They do cliff jumping over there.
Yes. Okay. That's
been
why I've
there?
heard of it. No, I think I've heard of
Heard
that.
it? Yeah. It's nice.
Is it how tall are the cliffs?
30 feet.
Well, perfect. So that's high enough to get you thinking, but
Yeah.
still doable.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay,
It's
Pace
high
Bend.
enough to like face your fears
Yeah, but
in a safe way.
But yeah, exactly right. It's not going to be like, you idiot, why are you jumping off this?
Yes. And let's just flash before we close out here.
Mhm.
What's something? Two things. What's something that we can say to folks listening today that they can actually apply today that might be helpful? One nugget.
One nugget. So, I mean, hopefully there's been a few nuggets.
There have.
There's so far, right? But what I would do is, and this is one of the first things I teach people to do, because so I have an online course people can go take. I do one-on-one coaching and group coaching people can come be a part of.
Where do they find the online course?
So if you go to feeling-free.com, you'll see it.
Feeling-free.com.
Yep.
Okay.
And then also you can just go to my Instagram or Google the Fear Guy and it'll go to my website. But in the course and also one-on-one and in group coaching, one of the first things I have people do is called track their triggers. And so it's essentially just tracking anytime you feel anxious. It's anytime you feel angry. It's anytime you feel jealous. It's anytime you feel anything but, peaceful. Like, I'm really stressed at work. Okay, well, write that down. And the whole point of that is to actually just start to become aware of how fearful you actually are, of how anxious, of how not present you are, how worried you are, how, self-critical, how much doubt you have in your reality. And so, ironically, trigger warning, tracking your triggers, because it can be kind of depressing to be like, dang, I actually have a lot more stuff happening than I even realized. But that's the point.
Yeah.
Is when you get a wound, if you crash on your motorcycle and you get, road rash, they don't just put a Band-Aid on it. They have to scrub it, and that hurts. That sucks.
Yeah.
Because you have to clean the wound before you heal it. And so that's what we're doing, right? We're bringing the stuff up that is hurtful and painful, but that's the only way you can heal it. And so that's step one is just become aware. And then from that point, you can begin to see okay, these are some of the things that are holding me back. And then I can take appropriate action. And, if you want more guidance, hit me up. But that's just step one of becoming aware of what's holding me back.
And there's a principle that's very supportive of this. It's what you track changes. Just like if you wanted to lose some weight.
And even just in business, right?
Track the numbers. Know your numbers.
And measure.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really good. And thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Who's one person that's alive that you would love to meet, to talk shop, so to speak, with? Somebody that you might look up to in the field or even not?
Dude, that's a great question. I think for some reason, before you said alive, I would have said Robin Williams, because we were talking about Hook. I think I would love to talk to him of you seem one of obviously, bringing so many other people joy, but he took his own life. So I'd love to kind of talk to him about that. And a lot of people don't know, comedians are actually some of the darkest people, right? But they are turning something painful and hurtful into comedy, right? They're taking something very touchy and triggering and turning it into something that people can digest. Those are what the great comedians do, which is turning, water into wine and lead into gold. That's my whole thing, of the alchemy stuff. So someone I think I'd do Oprah.
Oprah?
Yeah, dude. I think she just talked to so many
Where's she
people.
live? Chicago?
That's where she's from. I mean, she probably lives in
California
LA,
living right now.
Yeah, I mean, dude, she's got to have
billion
an estate. And let's actually talk about Oprah for a minute, because I remember hearing in an interview with her that even though she's a billionaire, is that she actually I'm not sure if she still does this. It's probably years ago, but she would like save, half-eaten sandwiches because that's how she grew up, right? She literally grew up in poverty.
Mhm.
And so just to let everybody know, right, of like, like the most successful people that you think don't have any problems, I promise you, I've talked to a lot of them. I've interviewed them. I've coached them. A lot of them have a lot of pain. And that's okay. Like, no shade on them. It's just to know that there's no difference between any of us. Like, we all have stuff that we're dealing with and have gone through. And so if you look at Oprah, right, and it's like, wow, she's a billionaire and she still worries about like money and like saving things. It's like, yeah, because that's her familiar. And so I imagine she's done work on it because she is into that stuff. But it's interesting to know that a billionaire still, you look at Warren Buffett, homie eats Dairy Queen. I know
McDonald's.
It's like, that stuff is terrible, and I know he's like invested in Dairy Queen, I think too, right? Like, didn't he start it or help?
Probably. Yeah.
But it's
He's
like,
invested in a lot.
yeah, right. But it's like you don't, like, do what you want, do what brings you joy.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
be mindful.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah.
If I was Warren Buffett, I wouldn't be eating McDonald's or Dairy Queen or drinking Coke.
Probably someone asked me, like, I'm into health. I'm not an expert by any means, but if you're drinking soda, that's probably the first thing to do to be healthier and more vibrant, like, is stop drinking soda. It's literally liquid poison. It is. There's no nutritional benefit. It's sugar.
You can take off rust off of a bicycle with Coke.
Yeah, and then you put it in your body. Think what it's removing in your
It's
body.
like, give me some CLR and let me pound a bottle of it. No,
Yeah.
You're not.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing that.
Yeah.
You're not drinking that CLR. It's disgusting.
But people are.
Well, shoot. I'll tell you what. I'll see if I can get a hold of Oprah.
If you do, next house I buy, it'd be from you.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be good. I connected. I connected.
That'd be good. It's like, I don't care. Okay.
I got a fun story.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know is more of this story. You just never know until you try. We had a girl on here, Heather Emerson, with Prep to Your Door. Ford's like 40 under 40 candidate and stuff like that. And an entrepreneur. She said, John Mackey.
I know that. Who is that?
The creator of Whole Foods.
Okay. And also in Austin.
Yeah, which is helpful.
Yeah.
I wrote him a letter.
You did?
Yes.
For her?
Yes.
Wow.
And guess who got a meeting with him?
No way.
She did.
Bro.
Cool, right? You just never know. I think it helped that I actually wrote a letter.
And you just did it from the kindness of your heart?
Yeah. Yeah, because I believe in her cause too.
Mm.
Like, she's helping people. She's trying to save the earth, right? You're helping a lot of people, right? That's why it's important to capture what you have to say on a meeting like this to help more people at once. So, yes, everybody, this is really great. Man, this is fun. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me. And we'll do another one once we talk to Oprah.
It's on, dude. And
it's a deal.
One more time for the audience, the rundown of how they can find you.
So on Instagram, it's The Fear Guy. You can Google The Fear Guy. My website is feeling-free.com.
Yep.
I also have a podcast. It's called The Fear Alchemist, where I meet with a bunch of different successful entrepreneurs and coaches and leaders, and we talk about their experience with fear and how they've overcome it, and also most of the time we actually explore an unresolved fear. So I actually kind of coach and guide them a little bit, which is fun for me because you don't get to see that with a lot of people. You just see the story, right? You just see like, I'm a billionaire now.
Highlight reels.
Yeah. It's like, instead of like in this moment, it's like, yes, I'm successful and I still am afraid of this thing. This is what I'm working through currently. I love it. And the peeps seem to really like it too.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, folks, you heard it here first. Greg Carlson, Pivotal Moments Podcast. Ben Harris, The Fear Guy. Till next time, Austin. Cheers.